30 seconds.
Can't always rely on these search engines and bots and whatever.
All right. Good morning, Geauga County, Lake County, all of northeastern Ohio. You're listening to us on the Voice of Geauga, where every Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 8 a.m., you will be entertained, enlightened, and informed. And with us this morning, I have Jonathan Broadbent and Mr. Bob Voss.
Good morning, everyone.
Infamous Bob Voss. If you lived in Geauga County for 2 minutes, you will know Mr. Bob Voss. He is everywhere, every place, does everything. He's a very well-known local guy, and he's the president of our Rotary. I believe I have our live stream working.
Looks good to me, Skip.
We're having some significant technical issues, which I've now gotten everybody involved who has any technical skills whatsoever. Microsoft is involved, Micro Center is involved, and I've got all kinds of high-powered technical people trying to solve a very complex technical issue for some reason.
Stop at nothing, in other words.
I'm telling you what, I spent way more time yesterday than I should have trying to solve this technical problem. It's a real goofy glitch for some reason, but I've discovered it, and maybe I'll help other people as they solve this problem. So we're not 100% perfect yet this morning, but hopefully everything will work fine. So with that said, I don't have the phone number because I had to redo my computer completely yesterday, and I don't have that in front of me.
I'll give it.
Jonathan, can you give the phone number to reach out and contact us?
My pleasure. You're listening to WINT Radio on 101.5 FM and 1330 AM. You can also stream the audio by going to wintradio.com or voiceofgeauga.com. Call in, join the conversation at 440-946-9468, or join us on social media. That's Rumble, YouTube, and Facebook.
So I'm not able to see Rumble and Facebook this morning.
I got them.
Part of the technical glitch, so you can tell me if we're working, not working. I'll have to turn
We're working. We're up.
Chat window up and running. So anyway, and we also have a couple of sponsors. I actually got some audio yesterday from one of our sponsors, the Red EFT guys, and so it's actually very well done. Now with all the technical stuff we've got going on, I haven't got a chance to plug it in yet, but it did a real nice job. So Red EFT is an arborist, Mr. Andrew Blasky, and he does a fantastic job. He climbs trees like monkeys, and will come in, assess your tree situation, if your limbs are falling off, if your tree's leaning over towards your house, if you just want to clear out some trees out of your yard, he's more than capable of coming in, cleaning it up. You'll never know he was there. It'll all be clean, gone, and he does it safely, and it's fun to watch him on top of all of that. So, and we also have the VFW out of Chardon, Middlefield, the American Legion out of Chardon, I think Middlefield, and
that's Chardon and Newberry.
Newberry, yeah.
Yep.
And so with that said, we'll move on into our program. We invited Mr. Bob Voss here today. And by the way, Mr. Tim Lennon is going to be back tomorrow, Friday, and he's got a lot of things to say about Geauga County. But with that said, Mr. Bob Voss, as I said, I've known Bob for quite a while here in Geauga County. He and I have spent quite a bit of time together working in various capacities. When I was a commissioner, we actually had an organization he was a president of or director of, whatever you want to call it. Did a fantastic job. He's now the president of the Geauga West Rotary, a great organization here in Chesterland. If you're interested in getting involved in a community activity that does a lot of good, and I'll let Bob give you the history and everything. He knows all there is to know about the Rotary. And we've got an event coming up. He's going to talk about that, I'm sure. But with that said, I'm going to introduce you Mr. Bob Voss, president of the Geauga West Rotary. Overall, great guy. And good morning, Bob.
Good morning, Skip. Jonathan, thanks for having me.
So give us a little background on you and on the Rotary.
Well, I've been a resident now of Geauga County for about 45 years. It's been here on Fowler's Mill Road, just down from the Brown Barn, which if you're in Geauga County, you know about the Brown Barn. That place is hopping. So it's an historic area. We live in a house that's my wife and I. We live in a house that was built in 1841 by Milo Fowler. And so I love history, and I love being a good steward of history. So Geauga County is near and dear to my heart. I love everything about Geauga County. I was a county employee over 30 years, and ran some nonprofits. And so, I've gotten around. I've raised a lot of money, passed a lot of levies. And so that's how I've kind of gotten my name out there over the years. But this is my second time as president, actually, of our Rotary Club. We were originally the Chesterland Rotary Club. And for those who don't know, in Geauga County, we have 4 Rotary clubs in Geauga County. We have the Burton Middlefield Club, we have the Chardon Club, Chagrin Valley, and the Chesterland Club. And actually, Burton Middlefield started our club 36 years ago. And the beautiful thing about Rotary is it's for business, minded people and people with big hearts and want to do good. And I like the fact that Rotary can fit into your schedule. We have breakfast clubs, lunch clubs, or dinner clubs. So really, it's no excuse whether you're a morning person or maybe if you like to go out to lunch or just relax after dinner. There's a club out there for you. And the 4 clubs in Geauga County are just outstanding. Just tremendous people. Just happy and proud to be part of that organization. And Rotary International, for those of you who don't know, is the oldest, largest volunteer service organization in the world. 1.4 million members in over 200 countries with 46,000 clubs. You can go anywhere in the world and you'll be able to find and locate a Rotary Club. And if you're a member, you're welcome to go to any one of them. And I guarantee you, it'll just be like walking into one of your club meetings. So it's a very welcoming environment. It was started here in Chicago by an attorney his name was Paul Harris, back in 1905. And Paul Harris started the first club in Chicago with 3 of his business acquaintances, and they were doing very well. And they just said, hey, you know what else can we do for our city and for our community? And back then, the cities were they weren't like they are today. They were a lot of dirt roads, a lot of mud, and a lot of horses. And people were in there, and they realized, oh my gosh, this is a mess. So their first public service project was public restroom, believe it or not, and have a place that they could go and they could clean up, and so it was kind of based on a pragmatic kind of situation. So the first service project was a public restroom in Chicago back in 1905.
And look at all those good things.
Come a long way since then.
Look at all the good things we've been doing, including helping to take care of the polio situation. That's another thing we're very famous for, I think.
That is one of the biggest service projects that they did. They worked with the World Health Organization and Red Cross, and they go around. They still do vaccines. And my understanding is that in order for a disease to be fully eradicated, kind of like smallpox is the only one so far, you have to have 3 years of 0 reported cases in the world. And right now, there have been, I think, 3 or 4 months now of no wild virus polio cases reported in the world. There were a couple of hot spots in Pakistan and Afghanistan where we have a handful of cases, but it's so hard to get to these remote areas. And of course, with all the tribes and the wars, and it's very dangerous. So, and they don't trust us with the vaccines, but some of the volunteers that actually go out on these missions and administer these vaccines to the kids, the drops. It's just a tremendous thing. And of course, the Rotary Foundation, partnering with the Bill Gates Foundation, raises billions of dollars to see if this is finally going to be eradicated. And it looks like we're on path to do that. So it's just a good thing feel good about being a Rotarian, that you're doing something on a scale that's making an impact in the world, not just locally.
So what are some of the other things we're doing? I know we've got an event coming up. You want to talk to people about that and invite them?
Well, every club is always trying to figure out a way to, have fun, but also raise some funds to do good. And so this year we're doing something a little different. We're going to have it at the Burton Century Village, which is right in the heart of Burton on the square. And again, since we're coming up on the 250th anniversary of our country, I think any organization that preserves and is a steward of history, and again, I live in a house that's 185 years old, and I think it's important to not only protect the past, and it's something for people to learn from, and the history is important here in Geauga County. So we're having it at the Burton Century Village. We're going to do a little cowboy Rotary roundup and Run for the Roses. It's actually on May 2nd, which is Derby Day, Kentucky Derby Day. So we're going to do a little fun there and have some, a little fun watching the race and maybe wagering on some horses. And there'll also be a horse there from In Step with Horses, which is an organization that does therapeutic, what do they do? Therapeutic riding, and also working with horses for folks with disabilities, and just a way for people to work through some of their trauma and their stress by being around a horse. Horses are amazing therapists. Yeah. And so the group In Step with Horses, we're also going to support. And also the Chesterland Historical Society. We're going to try to raise some funds for them too.
Hey, Bob, unfortunately, I need to step in. We're coming up on our first break.
Sorry, I took too much time there.
No, you're fine, you're fine. Remember, everybody can join us on YouTube, Facebook, and Rumble, and dial in 440-946-9468 to join the conversation. More on the other side of the break.
Mics are off. Mics.
Okay, so now, Bob, we are still live streaming, so we're still on the podcast side. So people following and listening in via Rumble, YouTube, and Facebook can continue to hear us. That's kind of one of the cool upsides to following Voice of Geauga on social media. They get a behind the curtains, behind the scenes glimpse into what happens during our radio breaks. So that means if you're hearing our voices now, there may be some gaps and just some private, not radio discussion, just talking about what's happening and what we plan for the next segment, etc. You are tuning in to a little behind the scenes discussion during a radio break on Voice of Geauga. Bob, is there anything you want to make sure that we cover during your time with us today?
Well, other than come on out on May 2nd, buy some tickets, go online, JeaugaWestRotary.com is our website, and you can find out more about the ticket information there. So you can have a nice pulled pork barbecue picnic kind of thing. Starts at 3 o'clock and goes through till 8 o'clock. Of course, we'll have the live streaming of the Kentucky Derby race at 7.
30 seconds.
And it should be a lot of fun.
Seconds.
And Bob, I want you to restate all of that on the air so that the radio listening audience can take part of that too.
Yep, absolutely. So when we come back on, we'll have you restate that.
10 seconds. 10 seconds.
Welcome back to Voice of Geauga with Skip Claypool, myself, Jonathan Broadbent, and we have guest Bob Voss from the Geauga West Rotary Club, and we learned something during the break. Bob was telling us a few things. There's a website, and I'm going to ask Bob to give that website in a moment. It's also, you can use the website to get tickets. There's going to be pulled pork and a picnic environment. It goes from 3 to 8 p.m. at the Burton Century Village. That's May 2nd from 3 to 8 p.m. And that's your cue, listening audience. Hop on the website. Go buy tickets. Bob, what is that website?
GeaugaWestRotary.com.
GeaugaWestRotary.com. That's easy enough. Head on over there, folks, and make sure to get your tickets.
And we have a Rotary Roundup coming up May 2nd at Century Village. And Rotary, and this is new for us. Every year up until this point, we've either had the Shining Stars, or we've had Hearts for Service. We've had other events which were typical, at the EOUV or some other venue, and it was dinner and dancing and music and this kind of stuff. This is different this year. This is a Western extravaganza. Cowboys, bring your boots, your hat, come on out there and get ready to stomp it and have a good time, eat some barbecue, right? Did I get that all right, Bob?
Absolutely.
So you can
and
go
wear
to
a nice derby hat. We got a contest.
You
for
can
the
go-
best dressed cowboy.
you can go to the Geauga
Western
West
team
Rotary.
couple or derby.
Go to the Geauga
Practicing your
Cos.
Southern drawl.
Go to the Geauga West Rotary website, and there's a QR code right on the front page. If you have a little trouble with that, you just click on that image that's there, and it'll take you to a bigger flyer with a QR code. You can scan that and buy a ticket. How much are the tickets, Bob?
$80.
$80. Wow, what a deal. You get
And again-
fun and food for $80. Oh my
We'll have some
gosh.
sideboards. We'll have some silent and Chinese auction items, and we'll also have some wagering on the ponies there. For those of you who want to do that, we'll actually live stream the Kentucky Derby race at 7:00, and we'll have some mint juleps. So for those of you who want to come out and pretend that you're actually there at the Kentucky Derby, we'll try to create that environment for you.
So let
That
me
sounds like fun.
let me get this right. So, a lot of political people like to go to pancake breakfast and walk around and hobnob and shake hands and rub elbows and do all the things political. I went to an event last night, and by the way, Joe Miller was there. I sat at his table, Jonathan, with
Oh,
Vivek
good.
Ramaswamy
One of
downtown
my co-hosts.
Cleveland. I was rubbing elbows with all the Cleveland, Cuyahoga County Republican political animals. And Vivek did a fantastic job. But political people love to go get their picture taken. I mean, I just went to this courthouse opening, clipping the ribbon. These guys, the political folks, can't run in front of a camera fast enough. And so this is a real opportunity. They could come to this rodeo roundup and see a lot of what they may have as constituents there, eat some barbecue, and help pass the beer around, buy a beer for somebody, and have a great time. And it's a little different from pancake breakfast. I mean, $80. I can't believe we're doing this so cheap.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'll give a little plug to the Purpose Brew Works there in Chesterland. They're going to provide some of the bourbon flavored beer, handcrafted beer that they make, and so that'll be really nice, a nice addition to our venue.
I just still can't believe it's so cheap.
But I have an important question to interject here, Bob. Will the women that attend be wearing extravagant hats?
There is a costume contest for the best dressed derby couple and the best dressed cowboy couple. So, we encourage you to get dressed up. It's a casual event, and it's kind of open seating, kind of like the pancake breakfast. It's in the big Lena Bond building there, right there. And so the capacity is about 200, 250 people comfortably in there. We're going to have some live music as well. A gentleman that plays, he's a virtuoso. He plays the fiddle, mandolin, banjo, guitar, and he and a buddy are going to play a little music for us. So it'll be a fun atmosphere. And again, with the horses there, from In Step with Horses, doing a little therapeutic, not riding, but actually explaining what they do to help people with trauma and stress, to work through that. Not just anybody, people with disabilities or have some issues that they're struggling with. So In Step with Horses is another organization that we support locally, if you've heard of them.
Are these mannered horses?
Well, they are therapeutic horses. So yeah, that's what they do for a living.
I've had
They're
horses
good at it.
nip me before. Maybe it was just me. I'm not sure.
Well, they are very perceptive and intuitive, so they can sense things about people.
Yeah, it's really good that you include all of that, and it's a great tie-in to have that therapeutic riding center. And I have learned great things through the years about really including all animals in therapy. All forms, all kinds of different therapy can include animals, and in particular horses. And I don't know if would know much about this. It's kind of a little offshoot, but I'm curious if you know much, Bob, about some of the dude ranches out west that serve as therapeutic centers that people can go for like a week and spend a time with a dedicated horse to rehabilitate from traumatic incident, those sorts of things. And actually, I believe there's a very strong tie-in with military service members going through things like PTSD. Do you know much about that?
Well, I do know a little about a lot of things. Actually, I'm a licensed counselor here in Ohio for the past 25, 30 years, and so I do have a background in that. My first job at Windsor Hospital in Chagrin Falls. I don't know, it's not there anymore, but it was. It was a psychiatric hospital, and they were one of the premier equine therapy programs in the country. And that was based on the whole fact that you can make progress again through therapeutic animals almost faster than you could with a psychiatrist or a clinical actual, person. There's just something about breaking down the boundaries and allowing somebody to, just feel more comfortable and gain confidence and build self-esteem just by being around another animal. And so, yeah, I'm pretty familiar with it.
And they're such beautiful, graceful animals. I'm going to let our listening audience in on a little secret. A secret to my role, as I see it, with Voice of Geauga. I did a little something before this show began. I've done in many different shows as we host guests. I opened up a browser and typed in Bob Voss, Geauga County. And before the show began, I was sharing with Bob some of the results that came up, and apparently the search browser that I use, which happens to be Brave, came up with some accurate information. I confirmed some of it with Bob. I've learned here by doing a search on Bob that he has worked for Geauga County for over 36 years, retiring from full-time county employment in 2014 after 30 years with the Geauga County Board of Developmental Disabilities and Job and Family Services. So that's true. I see him nodding. Bob is nodding now. That is quite a stint.
Yeah, once I moved to Geauga County and I started working here, I basically didn't want to go anywhere. I don't know how people do it. They drive an hour one way in traffic to go to work, or works, do a lot of traveling and flying. And I just said, no, I think I'll just make an impact right here. I'd rather be a bigger fish in a little pond, I guess. And Geauga County is my home, and I just love everybody that I've met, my neighbors, my friends, and all the people that I've helped over the years. It's just it was a good fit for me. So why go somewhere else if you're happy right here at home, right? There's no place like home, right?
Exactly right. And I see you've got a great big smile on your face as you're talking about life here in Geauga County. I love it. It also mentions that you co-authored 2 children's grief pamphlets and has sold approximately 250,000 copies each across the USA. And you're currently exploring an online counseling opportunities. I'm sorry to spin us in a little different direction. We'll come back to the Geauga West Rotary Club. But if you don't mind, since we have you here on air, can you tell us about that?
Well, one of my specialties when I was at John Carroll, I'm an alumnus of John Carroll University, and actually I got my master's and postmaster's there in their counseling program. And one of the areas that I did my internship was at the Hillcrest. At the time, it was Hillcrest Hospital. It wasn't Cleveland Clinic. It was in their hospice program. And my supervisor said, we don't really have anything that we can give to families who have lost a parent, and talking more about the children and the grief that they are going through. And so I said, well, that sounds like a really good project. I'll do my internship and base it around research on how children process grief and what we can do to help them when they lose a parent or a loved one or a pet or anything. And right at that time, God, this is just kind of sometimes it's all about timing. The space shuttle blew up right then when I was doing my internship. And of course, that became the platform for a national awareness of how children were affected because of Christy McAuliffe, the teacher who died in that space shuttle accident. So there was a lot of research all of a sudden that was, coming around about how it affects kids, children, and what we can do to help them. So I co-wrote with my supervisor a pamphlet. It was just a little pamphlet. We gave it around to funeral directors and to hospice programs and other bereavement programs around the state of Ohio. And from there, it just spread across the country and everybody wanted it. And it was just a simple, 10-page booklet. And then a publishing company out in Washington, Medic Publishing Company, and somebody approached us and said, hey, we'd like you to write another booklet. And so that was a springboard to do another.
We'll come back on the other side of the break with a discussion of the second pamphlet. And then, of course, we're going to get back to all things Rotary because I want to introduce that. You're listening to Voice of Geauga on WINT Radio. We'll come back with more on the other side of the break.
Mics are off. Mics are off.
All right.
So, Jonathan, I want to respond to some of the folks. They're commenting. Apparently, one of our county commissioners is making negative comments about our radio program in the Voice of Geauga newspaper, and so I'm seeing a bunch of posts out there we should probably respond to. So, if people want to support us, Voice of Geauga, then I suggest you do that and comment back and spread the word. Because if you look at the paper, it's a lot of positive, supporting police and the veterans and highlighting our new brewery and a bunch of positive things. And I apologize if some of the politicians out there get goofy and do some silly things and we highlight that.
Two thoughts. My instincts, my suggestion is if we're going to address that, why not do it on a day we don't have a guest? I'd love to focus as much as possible on Bob Voss and what he has to say. And also, there's a part of me that, why give it airtime? It appears to have gotten very little traction. But as soon as we bring it up, then it creates curiosity and people are going to go and see what the naysayers and nasty politicians, the negative things that they're saying. It just breathes a life into it. I'm very aware of it. I've seen it online. It really hasn't gained very much attention or traction.
Good.
So my suggestion is to sort of just let that die off. It's overwhelmingly, we've got 43,000 people or 43,000 addresses, and I already know that many people within those addresses are sharing it, and it's approximately a statistical 100% like the paper. There's probably a couple of dozen people, and as near as I can tell, a lot of them have connections to politicians and people making money off of taxpayers. They, of course, are going to publish and scream and yell and broadcast negative emotions about it. But I'd say why breathe life into it?
Yeah, I just didn't want to ignore the folks online. I agree. Let's focus on Rotary today. And since we're off the radio, offline, I thought maybe I'd address the audience we have on Facebook, Rumble, and FaceTime. I think with Tim Lennon coming on tomorrow, we might be able to have some comment on that.
I'm guessing that's probably going to come up with Tim because I think he's probably got a lot to say about that subject.
So anyway,
yeah.
Back on Rotary for a minute. You oftentimes, Bob, get up and you give this long history of Rotary. You've not done that today. I'm a little surprised.
Well, I did. I gave my little 30-second elevator speech about how it's the oldest, largest volunteer service organization in the world.
Established in 1905 in Chicago.
1905 by Paul Harris.
Boy, yeah. What a difference Chicago is from then to now.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing what the cities look like. They all were mud, roads and a lot of horses and a lot of horse manure and people going kind of everywhere. They're pretty dirty cities were. That's why the first service project was a public
30
restroom, because it
seconds.
was sorely needed.
I actually have a picture of Chardon with horse buggies and the dirt road in downtown Chardon next to the courthouse. I got some pictures on that.
Oh, just Skip, there is a comment here that you'll get a kick out of. It
10
seems
seconds, 10 seconds.
Yeah.
welcome back to Voice of Geauga with Skip Claypool, myself, Jonathan Broadbent, and we have guest Bob Voss from Geauga West Rotary Club. We're learning all about the history of Rotary and how to get involved. We did a sideline at my urging. We had some conversation about Bob's background in counseling and psychology, psychiatry. Excuse me, I get the two confused. I'm sorry if I said it wrong. I want to touch on that second pamphlet that you did, but then I have a question about how people get involved, especially focusing on the next generation, getting young people involved and interested in Rotary Club. So first things first, let's wrap up the conversation about those two pamphlets. What was the second pamphlet that you did?
Well, again, after the space shuttle accident just brought national awareness because of Christy McCullough, the teacher who was in that, was one of the astronauts. So all the kids across the country were grieving at the loss of their teacher, and it just brought to light that grief is a very powerful thing, and sometimes it can impact you, and so we thought if we would write something about how we could help children of all ages, even the smallest of children are affected by the loss of a parent or the loss of a caretaker or somebody significant. So what we did in the second pamphlet was we were asked to write more directly to like teenagers who you could actually give the pamphlet to and they could read it themselves. And of course, kids at that age, teenagers, even young adults, they struggle. They struggle with just trying to find their own self-identity, and anything can shake the foundation. And when you lose an important person, such as a parent, it can really have a profound impact. And so we wanted to write directly to them on what they could do to help cope with the loss. And so that was one of the spins on the actual second and third pamphlet, was to write more directly to someone who could actually read it themselves and get some information from it.
Wow. And are those still in publication?
I think the one went through a second edition. The gentleman that owned the publishing company out in Washington, he passed away. So, and it's been a while now. It's been over 40 years, and a lot of more information is coming out. But back then, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross was the pioneer, and Earl Grolman. Those were the two that really did a lot of research in that area. So we were relying heavily on that information. But today, I have to tell you, with everything that's going on with all the fentanyl and the overdose and the drugs and the suicide, I mean, there's always a need for more information to get out to people about how you can help somebody cope with loss and trauma. And so I know that's an area that just never seems to go away. So there's always, for people who want to get into that area of grief and bereavement, it's just they're never going to go away. It's a part of life, and death is. And so how we deal with it, cope with it, and manage it can affect you. I'll just say this real quick. As I was the supervisor for Child Protective Services at Job and Family for about 6 years, there were a lot of teenagers that were aging out of foster care, and if we had to remove them from their home, they were then minors. But then when they become 18 years old, they're an adult, and they don't want to be told what to do. As I guess I can relate to that when I was 18, and they wanted to be independent, but they had no idea how to be independent and how to be self-sufficient. So another program here right in Geauga County that our Rotary Club, and I had a hand in starting that organization, was the Geauga Next Step. And the next step is for those kids, young adults, 18 to 22, aging out of foster care. and they don't have the family, they don't have the parents. Sometimes the parents are in prison, sometimes they've passed away themselves. So it's like we want to help those kids to get on the right track. And so I'm real proud of that organization, and our Rotary Club has helped. Andrea Pollock is the director there. And so we want to, some of the funds that we're raising here on our fundraiser on May 2nd will go to help the Next Step program here in Geauga County.
That's one of my favorite programs. The Next Step program really does great things.
Rotary has such an impact and such a reach, whether it's locally, around the state, around the country, around the world, and that's the whole part about Rotary. There's a part of Rotary for everybody, and again, being involved, you can be involved as young as being in high school. You can be in the Interact Club, and the West Geauga High School has one of the largest Interact clubs in our district in Northeast Ohio. They have about 130 kids in that group. And Chelsea Talty is the Spanish teacher there at West G, and she is also a member in our club and the liaison to the Interact Club. For some of you who were maybe a Key Club member back in high school, because I was in Key Club. I didn't know this back then, but that was the high school club for Kiwanis. And so you have the Key Club, which is tied with the Kiwanis organization, and then you have the Interact Club, which is tied into the Rotary.
Well, that's exactly where I was hoping to get us to in the conversation, is getting the next generation involved. And it sounds like any good organization will do, it's already doing it. I was not aware of that.
Absolutely. And again, our district here in Northeast Ohio, District 6630, because we have the Cleveland Club, which is one of the oldest in the country. And there was a gentleman who was the president of the Cleveland Rotary Club. His name was Arch Klump. And Arch Klump actually started the Rotary Foundation back in 1917. And he was the international president of Rotary. And he started it in Atlanta in 1917 with $26.50. That's how much money they had.
Wow,
and today, the Rotary Foundation has well over $2 billion and has been doing amazing things across the world, and is one of the highly rated volunteer organizations in the world. Because, and I like this part, Skip, and you know this, 100% of the money that we raise goes toward helping people. It's all volunteer. We get paid nothing. And that's the part I love about Rotary. We raise money and we give 100% of what we raise. There's no administrative cost for us.
Well, that's beautiful. That means a lot more bang for the buck. That's something actually I know a fair amount about. I spent a pretty fair amount of time looking at what are called Form 990s for nonprofit organizations, and looking at that percentage, how much is kept to pay administrative staff. And if you get into the single digits, most organizations are looking pretty good if 90% of the money goes toward the cause. But you're talking about 100% of the money that comes in going toward the mission, toward the cause. Nobody. It's 100% volunteer, right? Is that what you're telling us?
Absolutely. And
wow.
that's the whole motto of Rotary. It's service above self.
Nice. I like that.
Doesn't get any clearer than that. It's not about you.
What's that 4-way test, Bob?
Well, of all the things we think, say, or do, the first thing is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? And fourth, will it be beneficial to all? And so those are the tests that we measure everything. That's the yardstick by which we do everything. And it is not about yourself. It's about how you can help others. And I'll say this, it's not a political and it's not a religious organization. We welcome everyone. And I think the more diverse we have of people who want to just roll up their sleeves and work together on something. And I think no more than today is that important, that we can work together with everybody to do good in the world. And that is what Arch Klump, when he started the Rotary Foundation, he said, let's do good in the world, period. It's just that simple.
You know, it's interesting you say that.
On Rumble, Darafy says I really love that you at Rotary are helping the foster kids. I was a foster parent, and so it is an issue that is close to my heart. Great comment. Thanks, Dorothy.
You know, I find it interesting. You made the comment, Bob. We're not a religious organization, but we don't ignore the reality of the world either. We do open our meetings with prayer, and we're not a political organization. Yet we have political people come in because that's part of the world that we live in and talk to us about what's going on. And we have the sheriff in from time to time, and we have, you know, our police department. We have trustees. We have our candidates in, judges in periodically. So, you know, that's one of the things we really haven't talked about. Our meetings are interesting because we do a breakfast meeting. Each of the Rotaries in Geauga County have a different personality. So if you were to go to the Chardon versus the Middlefield, or the Burton versus the Rotary here, or go down to Gates Mills, each has its own kind of personality. And our particular Rotary is a very friendly, fun group to go to. It's breakfast in the morning. And we have really good speakers. I'll tell you what, we had some really world-class people come in and talk about various things. One recently, which I happen to have missed that meeting, I'd like to see her come back, is the lady that talked about human trafficking. And so we have some really, really interesting, very experienced, knowledgeable people that come in and talk to our group in the morning. So if anybody wants to come and explore Rotary, 7 a.m. on Wednesday mornings. Unfortunately, this program interferes with my participation here recently, but we're going to actually take this to the meeting at some point in time. But people should come and listen to some of these speakers.
Yeah, we'll have to really get some good tech for that one in order to be able to successfully mic and live stream. But I'm all for trying it. We are coming up on our third and final break. We've got about 30 seconds left. I'm going to interject a few things. Remember, again, our sponsors of the show. Check out Red EFT, pardon me, Red EFT, the arborists. We've got Chardon VFW, Middlefield VFW, the Chardon and Newberry American Legions. You can, at any time, contact Voice of Geauga at voiceofgeauga@gmail.com. and dial in anytime during the show at 440-946-9468 or on the other side of the break. All right.
Mics are off. They're off.
Hey, Jonathan, just for fun, I'm going to play this ad spot that Red AFT gave me, and I think you'll enjoy it. Hang on a second.
Okay.
Well,
should it be? Call Red F Arborists. We specialize in safe professional tree removal, pruning, and storm cleanup. Done right the first time, without the mess or the headache. No guesswork, no shortcuts, just skilled work you can trust. Call or text 440-850-4968. That's 440-850-4968. Red F Arborists. Strong roots, clean results.
Skip, are you playing that from your phone?
Yeah, I haven't uploaded it yet, so I've got to grab that and upload it.
It sounds like it's going to be good, but because of that, there were some interference noises that we were able to hear. It was a little warbly.
Yeah. Well, it gives give you a taste of what's coming. So.
Okay. Yeah, it's a good.
They did. I don't know who Andrew had do it, but they did a nice job.
Yeah. It's good. I have the one that I did for WINT. It was my first experience with creating a radio spot, and I learned some things during that process, and then communicating with WINT radio. So I kind of had some fun putting it together. In the future, I'm going to do things a little bit differently because I've learned some, but creating a little voiceover commercial was
30 seconds, 30 seconds.
An interesting experience, something that I never thought would be on my bingo card. But then again, I didn't think radio host was going to be on my bingo card either for life. All right, so Bob, we'll come back from break in 30 seconds, and this is our final segment. So I'm going to ask the website again.
10 seconds, 10 seconds.
Welcome back to Voice of Geauga with Skip Claypool, myself, Jonathan Broadbent, and we have guest Bob Voss from Geauga West Rotary. We have this is our our final minutes here with Bob Voss, our guest. You can find out more about the Geauga West Rotary Club. Bob, if you would give that website one more time.
GeaugaWestRotary.com.
GeaugaWestRotary.com. And it sounds like I was really anxious at the beginning of this discussion this morning to make sure that we do a good job of pushing to queue up the next generation and get young adults and kids, K through 12, aware and interested. But it sounds like that's already well handled. And we have a very robust group of kids that are already in the hopper, in the pipeline for Rotary. Right, Bob?
Absolutely. And again, some of these kids are pretty amazing. I don't think I was that busy. I mean, I played sports, and so I was busy doing that. And I think once a year we did a chicken barbecue to raise some money for maybe the seniors there. And so the group I was in, the Key Club, back in high school, was the group to be part of. It was a lot of my friends and a lot of the kids in the school who were the athletes. But now it just seems to be. These kids are so involved with so many different facets. I don't even know how they have time to study, and yet they have quite a caseload, and you're even taking advanced classes now, at the college level. So we got Geauga County is a special place, and we have, again, West Geauga, Chardon. Some of our school systems are absolutely phenomenal.
Is there an element for the young adults and kids, Bob, that includes public speaking? That can be a tricky hurdle to navigate, the typical discomfort with getting up and speaking in front of public.
Well, yeah, and that's actually the Rotary four-way test speech contest, which is coming up right now. So all the clubs, we have 50 clubs in Northeast Ohio, but all the clubs throughout Ohio compete in this. They have 5 to 7 minutes to do a speech about anything they want to talk about, but it has to have the four-way test, elements of the four-way test in it. And so we had 4 students from West Geauga come to our club, and then our club judges the best 2, and they advance to the district four-way speech contest. And then from there, they go to the state. And thousands of kids that compete in this, ultimately there's the winner and the runner-up. And then they go to our district conference, which is at the Cleveland East Marriott on April 24th and 25th. And those 2 then present to the conference of clubs, which is a really wonderful opportunity for them to get in front of 300 people. And they do this all from memory. They don't have any note cards. They don't read it. It's all a 5 to 7 minute speech on the Rotary four-way test. So it's impressive. These kids are impressive.
Wow. So they're designing and then creating, designing, memorizing a 5 to 7 minute speech that's got to be impactful. It's got to meet the four-way test, and then they're using that to try to advance in that competition. That's pretty cool to learn about. I had no idea.
Yeah, and we're trying to get in the West Geauga school curriculum. It's an elective right now. We want to get a speech and debate club started and get more kids that can get to this level, like the Toastmasters, and just to get kids to be able to speak better in public, in front of people, in front of an audience. I think that's becoming an issue with the technology and the phones and the computers. They're not so good at making eye contact and looking you straight in the face and talking to you. They're more kind of introverted. So it is an element that you need, I think, to be successful. You need to be able to communicate in a public forum. And so I think that kind of curriculum would be great. And we support that. Literacy is one of the big things that Rotary focuses on, not just health with the eradicating polio virus, but also literacy. It's a huge part of Rotary. And of course, wells and water, and there's a lot of things you can get involved in Rotary and find your sweet spot that you can roll up your sleeves and maybe have an impact.
I'm keenly interested in that speech and debate. That's something anybody that follows me on social media or has listened to the years that I've been involved in Ohio political news has probably heard me comment many, many times on the urgency with which, I won't even put it as a wish list item, I think it's urgent, that we bring back speech and debate and critical thinking into K through 12. Personally, I would be delighted if you're successful at bringing a speech and debate. Not to push too hard on this, but I'm going to interject for the sake of our audience. One of the key pieces that comes with that, a successfully run debate program, is empathy. It teaches kids, a good, well-run debate program will often put kids on the opposite side of whatever their position is and encourage them to argue from the opposite perspective, whatever the topic, whatever the issue. It forces people to look to get outside of themselves. And that's something that is very lacking in my estimation in present day society. So I'm pulling for you, Bob. I hope that you're able to get that in and a regular part of the program at West Geauga schools.
Well, again, we're going to work as hard as we can with Dr. Nancy Benacasa, the superintendent, and one of the members in our club, Jim Kish, is at West Geauga, one of the staff. And so with Chelsea Talty as the Interact liaison, we think we have some things going in the right direction.
There's a great comment on that in the Rumble chat. That is a great idea. Kids today are not encouraged to debate and think independently. And it goes to a lot of what comes out of social media and the amount of time that kids spend on screens, to the ability to immerse oneself in learning about in depth about any subject or any topic and really explore something to a large degree I believe it is a dying art. With the fast-paced click-through swipe generation, to really get your teeth into something and spend some time with a topic, absorbing it and exploring different perspectives, that has to happen for a successful speech and debate program. Just the amount of good that could come from it.
Bob, one of the things I'd like to see, just an idea, we have the kids come in and give a speech, but there's nobody challenging their logic. And so there's no debate side of it, there's a speech side of it. And it would be great to have an actual debate where you have two students come up, or however many students, and somebody makes their presentation, and then somebody then challenges that presentation and some of the thought process, because that is large part what's lacking in our society today. If you go to some of these goofy rallies, and some of the last night, this event we went to, there were some protesters there. And if you try to challenge their logic, they have a hard time supporting their emotional positions. And so it's good for kids to think through and to be able to rationalize and challenge their own thinking, the critical thinking part of that. And to a large extent, our society, adults too, have lost the whole critical thinking part. And so that'd be a great thing to add in there. You might want to file that away and see what Chelsea says about that. So.
Well, and I'll just add, because it touches on both of what you're talking about. But the most important thing in my mind is civic discourse and being civil about it, and that we seem to have lost. And there's no reason why you can't not agree with somebody but still be civil about it and still have a nice discourse, and you can walk away still being friends.
Yeah, I had a nice discussion last night with Jerry Serino, who used to be our one of our state senators, and we disagree on the real estate thing. I see us coming up on the end of the program. Maybe we can talk more about that tomorrow. But we had a nice civil conversation. He's a state legislator, and he has a position. I have a different contrary position, and we had a nice discussion about it. So
yeah, that's the way that it should work.
Yeah. You've
been listening to Voice of Geauga today with hosts Skip Claypool, myself, Jonathan Broadbent, and we've had Bob Voss, from Geauga West Rotary. I hope that you've enjoyed the conversation. Stay tuned, or tune back in tomorrow morning for Tim Lennon. This has been Voice of Geauga. Have a great day, everyone.